Ayan, naka-on na ata siya. So hi guys, good afternoon and welcome back to my magical world. It's 13:08 in the afternoon. Today is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. So, um, we're going to finish. Kaunti na lang guys, and we're almost done with this book and then we can move forward with our life. So, ayan. I'm going to read pages 305 and 306 of the book Mastery. So, bagalan natin today kasi we have all the time in this world right now. So, ayan. May piyok pa eh. So, second coming, so close to death, at such an early age, made him feel the presence of death in his bones. And this feeling stayed with him for weeks after recovering. As he turned to life, he was suddenly struck by the strangeness of being alive, of possessing a heart and lungs and brain that functioned beyond his conscious control. He felt that there was a life force that transcended the individual incarnations of life, a force not from God, but from nature itself. In his convalescence, he would take long walks in the country, and his personal sense of strangeness of life was transferred to the sight of plants and trees and animals. What force brought them to their present, perfectly adapted states of life? What was the source of the energy that made them grow? Feeling as if he had been reprieved from a death sentence, he experienced an insatiable curiosity for this life force. An idea came to him for a story based on the famous German legend of a scholar named Faust, who desperately wants to discover the secret of life and who meets an incarnation of the devil named Mephistopheles, who helps him in the quest in exchange for possession of his soul. So, if ever the restless Faust experiences a moment of contentment and wants nothing more from life, then he is to die and the devil will own his soul. Go or go thee, ano nyo na lang guys, bahala na kayo kung paano nyo po pronounce yung pangalan na to. Began to take notes on this drama, and in the dialogues he wrote between the devil and Faust, he could hear his own inner voices, his own demonic dualities talking to each other. Several years later, Goethe began life as a lawyer in Frankfurt, and as before in Leipzig, his daemon seemed to take control of him. He hated the conventional life of a lawyer, and he hated all of the conventions that seemed to dominate social life and to disconnect people from nature. He entertained deeply rebellious thoughts, which he channeled into an epistolary novel. The Sorrows of Youth were there. Although the story was loosely based on people he knew and on a young friend who had committed suicide over a failed romance. So, don't commit it, guys. Okay? I know life has been it's full of it's full it's full of unpredictable struggles, unpredictable pains, and no one is actually, kumbaga, not everyone can get away with it. You might see those lovely couples or those big time people, but they have a lot of wounds that they are dealing with, which probably you don't even know or you don't even understand. So that's why it's important to stay on your own lane and on your own path para hindi na dilute yung inyong energy with um, uh, energy that is not for you. Okay, so the novel, um, wait lang, Suicide Over. So most of the ideas in it came from his experiences. The novel promoted the superiority of the emotions and advocated a return to a life of sensation and to living closer to nature. It was the precursor of the movement that would come to be known throughout Europe or Romanticism, and it created a powerful reaction in Germany and beyond. So overnight, Yango became a celebrity. Almost everyone read the book. Hundreds of young people committed suicide in imitation of the despairing Werther. Kakaloka, no? Virgo, the success surprised and baffled him. Suddenly, he was hobnobbing with with the most famous writers of his time. Slowly, the demon reared its ugly head. He gave himself up to a life of wine, women, and parties. His moods began to swing wildly back and forth, and he felt a racing disgust at himself and the world he was frequenting. The circle of writers and intellectuals who dominated his life annoyed him to no end. They were so smug, and their world was as disconnected from reality and nature as that of lawyers. He felt increasingly constricted by his reputation as a sensational writer. So in 1775, a year after the publication of Werther, he received an invitation from the Duke of Weimar to stay in his duchy and serve as a personal advisor and minister. The Duke was a great admirer of his writing and was trying to recruit more artists to his rather dull court. So for Go, however, this was the opportunity he was waiting for. He could say goodbye to the literary world and bury himself in Weimar. He could pour his energies into political work and into science, taming that damnable inner demon. He accepted the invitation and except for one later trip to Italy, he would spend the rest of his life in Weimar. Yung nakakainis guys yung CapCut, may bayad na yung ano, editing. Wala lang. Naiinis ako. Why? Why did you do it? Guys, guys, why? So in Weimar had the idea of trying to modernize the local government, but he quickly realized that the Duke was weak and undisciplined and that any at reforming the duchy was doomed. There was too much corruption, and so slowly he poured his energies into his new passion in life, the sciences. He focused on geology, botany, and anatomy. His years of writing poetry and novels were over. He began to collect a large amount of stones, plants, and the bones that he could study in his house at all hours. And as he looked deeply into these sciences, he began to see strange connections between them. In geology, changes and the earth occur with great slowness over immensely long periods of time, too slowly to be observed, and in the span of a single lifetime. Plants are in a continual state of metamorphosis from the most primitive beginnings of the seed to the flower or tree. All life on the planet is in an ever present state of development, one life form growing out of another. He began to entertain the radical idea that humans themselves evolved from primitive life forms. That was the way. After all of nature, one of the main arguments of the time against such evolutionary theory was the non-existence of the intermaxillary bone in humans. It exists in all lower animals in the jaw, including primates, but at the time could not be found in the human skull. This was paraded as evidence that man is separate and created by a divine force. Based on his idea that all of nature is interconnected, Go could not accept such a hypothesis. And through much research, he discovered remnants of the intermaxillary bone in the upper cheekbones of human infants, the ultimate indication of our connection to all other life forms. Ayan, so yeah, so we're done. We're done na guys. I think, and this is, yeah, I think this would be the last chapter na ba to? So late, yeah, I think it's the last chapter. Tapos may mga biography. Pero hindi pa siya completely done. Siguro ganyan pa yung yung thickness niya. Kung babasahin natin. Not all of that, but I told you we're already done. So, I want to thank all my new subscribers and all my loyal subscribers here in my channel. Thank you for always tuning in. And for my future subscriber. Ngayon na guys. Subscribe na kayo guys. So, thank you for always being there. Thank you for helping me make this world a better place for all of us and for the future generation. Nahihirapan ako kung hindi pa ako sanay sa ganitong format. So, let it be. Okay, I'm gonna see you again, guys.